UPBOptionMillionaires.com. It's August 15, 2013. About an hour before the market's going to open, futures are lower. Stocks are getting mauled here pre-market. The S&P 500 ETF is down almost 1% last check. But bonds, oh my goodness, the S&P 500 is down about 0.8%, 0.85%. Even Apple's lower, almost 1% lower. Everything getting sold off here, including bonds. I highlighted TLT before the open on Monday, right up here. We hit almost 108. It was a nice decline on Monday, a gap down on Tuesday, and it's been kind of just remaining at a steady level here as buyers and sellers decide what they want to do. Today, another gap down like this. We're down at the 104 level. Okay, dropped another $1.25 pre-market. The TLT 106 puts that I highlighted in the chat room at optionmillionaires.com and on the private Twitter feed at 19 cents that I also entered into are going to be worth $2 and probably 40 cents. So that's a pretty good trade there, 19 cents into $2.40. This TLT trade that I've been highlighting now for months and that I was saying this week would probably come to a head. It's coming to a head. You can see this topping pattern. Go back from a longer term perspective. TLT has now broken through this long-term support line to the downside, and I think ultimately the carnage will stop at about this level here that we saw back in 2010 was the last time it hit this line. It's going to take time. There's going to be bounces in between. It's not going to be a straight line, but we could see, at least in the short term, see this kind of rise that we had in the middle of 2011. We could see the opposite to the downside, which would bring us under $100. And this is why I talked about, you go to stocktwits.com a couple weeks ago about the $90 puts for October, which were at like 7 or 8 cents at the time. It's going to be a nice gain. You can even go closer to money if you'd like. Anyway, it's something we bring up all the time at optionmillionaires.com. I did a post about it. You can check it out. I'll put the link up for you if you need it. So we have the S&P 500. It's doing well since 2009, but the question is, are we topping? This blue line about, 20 minutes ago represented the S&P 500 where it was going to open. It's a little lower now. We're at about 167, which brings us about here. You see these acted as resistance back in May. You can draw a trend line across. That would be where we're going to see some support going forward. The question is, where does the selling stop? And are we going to get the buy the dip mentality that we've seen over the last 5 years, meaning we usually get a sell-off and at about an hour and 20 minutes into the trading day, stocks mysteriously rally. They find a bottom. A stock that we could see maybe rise off its lows. I was talking about this. I did a video at stocktwits.com. See that blue line on CSCO systems? I was talking about this as long-term resistance and highlighting the fact that the odds were in the favor of a sharp decline post-earnings. That's what we're getting. However, the analysts are coming out, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, coming out and say, all right, well, the decline here for CSCO systems, it's a buying opportunity. So what we're looking at is a move down, hopefully below 24, and then could be a chance to buy some calls for a rip off the lows. But I'd wait at least an hour into the trading session, let the dust settle. Tesla broke through support yesterday, 2-day support at the 42 level right here, and declined, hit 138, and just kind of bounced along there. I think the stock is heading to $200 this year. Just a matter of where this decline stops. Could stop as low as 114. I'm thinking here, if you draw it across, this line here would be 135, and I think, or it's actually 132.50, I believe. And that would be where I think that this bout of selling stops. And that would be a good time to buy some longer-term out-of-the-money calls. We have Apple, which is down today. Crazy. But look at the chart. Has been up nicely the last couple trading sessions. Obviously, Carl Icahn's stake in the company is helping to bolster shares. I was talking about this a couple weeks ago. I did it on StockTwits when the stock was down here in the 440s. I said the stock is bottoming, and I think the bottoming process will resolve to the upside, and that resolution of the selling that we saw since September 2012 will ultimately lead to a rise in Apple to new all-time highs. The reason being that if you look from a longer-term perspective from Apple, I know Steve Jobs isn't there anymore and people think the innovation is gone, but there's still a cash cow. And I think that's one of the reasons why Carl Icahn bought the company or bought into the company, because he thinks they have a lot of cash, they can borrow, they can do whatever they want, buy back stock to increase shareholder value. And that's what Carl Icahn is all about, buying shares and having that value rise. So to me, even if we get a pullback here in the next couple days heading into week's end, we're still going to be flagging. Even if we pull back to the 490, 485 level, it's going to be a bull flag. This is the flagpole. This will be the flag, and we're going to spike up to 525, then 550, then 600, 650, 700, and new all-time highs for Apple. So it's going to be interesting end to the week. We have stocks lower. Question is, are we going to get that buy the dip? We have NetEase up pre-market. We have Cisco getting mauled pre-market, but off its low. See, it hit 2360 after earnings report yesterday, off its lows. We also have NetApp, which is down about 4%. One of the analysts came out today, said actually the earnings report was as close to perfect as you can expect from them, yet the stock was down. They said some of it had to do with Cisco and some of the earnings reports, and that they didn't completely destroy expectations. And again, here's TLT. This is the TLT 20-year bond fund ETF that hit 103.54. I mean, just got destroyed. Has been bouncing a little bit here, but and if you look at the S&P 500, same thing, selling off as well. So we're seeing bonds sell off, we're seeing stocks sell off. I don't know if you go back to 2008 and then finally 2009 when the central banks really started to manipulate their by buying bonds, the Federal Reserve, namely, by lowering interest rates to 0% and then buying mortgage-backed securities and treasuries. Usually what we see is the inverse. You see stocks rise, bonds decline. But we're seeing both of them happen at the same time. So just kind of, that's what happens when you have a centrally planned, manipulated economy. And this is the US dollar index, which spiked. So we had the US dollar index spike, and we have stocks and bonds falling. It's going to be an interesting day. And what we really need to watch is the VIX as well. If we see the VIX was up 6% yesterday, if we see the VIX really start to rise, that's going to be the indication there that stocks are probably going to continue to fall. But what we've seen in the past, and you see the VXX up over 15, so it's up significantly here early on before the market opened. But if we see the VIX start to melt, that means the fear is not out there still, which I don't think it is. This is just your garden variety sell-off, profit taking. And I think ultimately we're going to end the year higher than we are right now. We're going to make new all-time highs at some point. I don't think the buy the dip mentality is over just yet. And the taper that everybody's been talking about, oh my goodness, instead of buying $85 billion worth of mortgage-backed securities and bonds, they're going to taper it down to $75 billion. What's $10 billion in this centrally planned world economy that we live in? All right, UPB here from OptionMillionaires.com. So it's going to be interesting. End to the week, stock futures are lower. We're going to get a bounce, or we're going to continue lower. Where's the support? Where's the resistance? I think I highlighted some of my ideas here for you. I'll see you in the chat room at OptionMillionaires.com. Goodbye.